Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're reacting to
We left the US for a better life in Europe. Let's see how that life is
Where
going.
in Europe.
Finland.
Oh.
You see the birch trees? Yes.
Mhm. Where they left in the US, like from
Hi,
where?
I'm Shirley, and this is Finlandia Diaries. I don't think I've ever introduced myself before. I've made a couple videos already on my channel, and some of my friends said to me, why don't you do an intro video because people might want to know who you are and why you are in Finland. So long story short, my husband is Finnish and we have 2 kids, and that's how
Oh.
I am able to stay in Finland. Now, if you want the longer version of the story, then keep on watching. So I guess we'll go all the way back to when I was born. I am an American, but I was actually born in China. I was raised on the west coast of the United States, and I moved to New York City when I was about 19. My husband and I met while we were both working in New York City, and after getting married, we decided to buy a house together because we just thought that that was the next logical thing to do after settling down. Because of our budget at the time, we had 2 options really. One was to buy like a 1-bedroom, at most a 2-bedroom apartment, or in New York City they're condos because you don't actually own the unit, so it's like a condo. So we were either able to get a small condo near New York City, not even in
Thank
Manhattan,
you. She
probably
put
either
a
in
little text co-op. It's not a condo, co-op.
Queens or Brooklyn or even New Jersey, or our other option was to go a little bit outside of the city and find a house. So this was before the pandemic, thankfully, and there were a pretty good amount of houses for us to choose from, and so we went around and took a look at a few houses. We ultimately decided on a split level ranch, and I'll put a picture here for you guys to see what that looks like. It was about 2,500 square feet because the previous owners had done renovations above the garage, so there was a little bit more extra living space. And at the time, the interest rate was, I think, 4.25%. I think that's what our interest rate was when we signed a 30-year loan. At that time, we had no kids then, even though we had talked about maybe having kids or thinking about having kids. Neither of us were really ready for that, so we held off on having kids. And essentially, we were living the dink life, the dual income, no kids life. My husband worked and I had a full-time job at a corporate company, and we were just living life. Fast forward a few years, we've decided that it was probably time for us to have kids because we were not getting any younger. I'm currently in my late 30s already, and my husband is in his 40s, and we thought that the window of us having kids was getting smaller and smaller, so we decided to have a baby. And so our firstborn, our son, was born during the pandemic. He was born in 2020. It was so awesome that we had our house at the right time because we were all locked in and we were working from home, and I had my baby there as well, so I was able to basically work until he was about 6 months, 7 months old at home while taking care of the baby. My husband and I would switch off, but when he turned about 7 months, it got to be a little bit too much because he started to crawl around and stuff like that. So we ended up getting a nanny, and she came to our place 5 days a week during work hours while I worked from home. And then during lunch breaks, I was able to see him and still spend some time with him. And fast forward 2.5 years, we decided to have another kid because growing up, I did not have a sibling since I was born in China. I was born during the era where you were only allowed to have one kid, so I had no siblings growing up. And I knew that if I ever had kids, I would want them to have a sibling. So we decided to have another baby, and our baby girl was born in 2023. And so by then, we were no longer living the dink life because we had 2 small kids to raise, and both of us had to work because, well, we had a mortgage to pay. And due to nobody's fault but our own, we did not crunch the numbers. If you follow Ramit Sethi, you'll hear him say that buying a house might not be the best option, and you don't want to end up being house poor. And that's exactly what happened to us. We were house poor. We were house poor and kids poor, basically. New York State in America is one of the most expensive states to live in because you have to pay a lot of property taxes. I think our property taxes were upwards of $10,000 a year, and
Wow, that's
what
a
they call school tax. You had to fund the
lot.
local schools. Even though our kids were not even school age and they were not going to school, we still had to pay the taxes. After our daughter was born, I had 6 months of maternity leave, which was nice. With my son, I only had 3. In the U.S.,
And
you
they're
really don't.
outside of New York.
Yeah,
That's a
that's a
lot.
state tax, state property tax. So,
That's a lot. And you outside of New York? What's inside of New York look like?
I'm sure it's higher.
Don't get a lot of time for mat leave, and I was lucky to get 6 months off. Usually companies would give you like 12 weeks or even sometimes less than that, so I was thankful to have 6 months. And I returned to work after 6 months. At that time, my son was in daycare, and our daughter was sent to the nanny that looked after my son,
You
and she
know,
was
that's
with
the
her during
interesting
work.
thing because they understand they need 2 incomes. So, but to work the job, she has to go and do that job, and she cannot also watch the kids too at the same time. So then you send them to daycare, and now you have to make income and pay for the
But the
daycare.
daycare costs like almost like a job too. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's what I'm
very
saying. So
expensive. Yeah.
what's the point of two incomes if the second income is going to the daycare.
Yeah, the daycare most councils have it. Like,
that's crazy to
it
me.
depends on the job you do. Maybe you'll make more money than the daycare, but daycares are like
Yeah.
it's way more than the minimum wage job. Like, I believe it's like about $2,000 a month or some shit like that. Yeah, it's the daycare is expensive.
hours. Even though my husband worked from home, he wasn't able to look after both of our kids while still having to do work. Because we lived away from the city, in order to get back into the city for work, I had a really, really long commute. We're talking about upwards of 2 hours
Wow.
driving one way because of traffic going in and out of Manhattan.
She
So
killing me.
that was
Oh.
crazy.
She had
Even
to
though we
leave.
go
Y'all
to the
had to
office, like,
leave.
2 to 3 times a
Yeah.
week. It was still a lot. Juggling 2 kids and having
Whoa.
to commute. So by that time, I had probably been working in corporate for about 10 years, and I was kind of tired of climbing the corporate ladder. I realized that companies really don't care much about you. All they care about is themselves. So we had a big house and 2 young kids, and we both had to work, and it was just a lot. There was a lot of tension in the house. We were tired all the time. We didn't have family around to help us, and so that kind of got us thinking. The numbers weren't adding up, even though both of us had a good salary, because of all the taxes and healthcare that we have to pay for, daycare that we had to pay for, mortgage, whatnot. The numbers just didn't add up. Now, if we had budgeted a
math
little bit
wasn't
better
mathing.
and thought about what our plan was going to be for the next 5-10 years when we bought a house, it probably would have changed things a little bit, hindsight 2020, but that we didn't do that. And so we just felt like things didn't really make sense.
Enjoy complimentary access to
Interesting
Sapphire
video,
Lounge
but
by the club.
This is more like her
Chase
background story
Sapphire
than like
Reserve.
I thought she was gonna
Yeah.
talk about life in
There's
Europe a
more.
little bit.
Looking for Moana 2? It's now streaming
Because
on
we're like
Disney
halfway through
Plus.
the video, and we're still in her life
Because my
story.
husband is Finnish, our kids, once they're born, no matter where they're born, they have Finnish citizenship by birthright. So they automatically became Finnish
Really?
citizens the moment they were born. And even before
Really?
we had kids, my
Um,
husband and I would often visit
I think so. I think most European countries give that citizenship by birthright. Yeah, I think in America.
But you don't have to give up, like, pick one. Like, I thought you had to, like.
Well,
only
okay,
have
so it
one.
depends on the country. Some countries have dual,
Oh.
some don't.
Oh.
But so Finnish, I guess Finland has dual citizenship. Yeah.
That's cool.
Finland. That also cut into our finances a little bit because
That's cool.
we-
And that's actually a really smart idea because then you leave opportunity for those to come back to the country, you know?
Yeah.
usually would come to Finland during the summer and during Christmas. So that's like 2 trips to Europe, and that was not cheap. So anyways, I feel like I've been rambling a lot. We did our numbers and things were just not adding up. Even though we were able to get by, we were practically living paycheck to paycheck. We were not happy with how much we had saved, and we were not happy with our investments. And so we started talking about maybe moving to Finland for a little bit. And there were a lot of late night conversations about whether or not this is a good idea, the pros and cons, everything we have to do. And so ultimately, since I'm sitting here in Finland talking
You
to you
know,
about this,
her
we made a
situation is a very real situation.
Yes, it is.
I like this video.
Very, very relatable, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
Finland. My husband grew up in Turku, so his parents are still here. Most of his friends are here. We're currently living in Turku, and there were multiple other factors that also played into our decision to move to Finland. Once we decided that we were going to move to Finland, I put in my notice on my company, and we put our house up for sale. So
Notice
we were
it-
able to
Bye.
sell our house after about two or 3 weeks because the housing market was just so crazy at the time. Interest rates were going up, and there weren't a lot of
It was a good time for them to sell.
Mm-hmm.
That also helped them.
houses available for sale
They
because
made a little
most
money.
of the people
Money.
that bought their houses earlier had a low interest rate and they didn't want to give that up because even if they had made money selling their house, they would have to go somewhere else to live and get a higher mortgage. So there weren't a lot of houses on the market, which worked in our favor because we got, I think it was 2 offers within the first week or 2 of putting our house up for sale. And so we closed on a house, or do you say that when you sell your house? I don't know. We signed the papers, we decided to sell our house. We also had 2 cars, so we sold our cars as well. And we had multiple garage sales and yard sales in order to get rid of most of our stuff. I don't know what percentage of things we sold, but we sold a lot of stuff. We did hire a company to ship some of our belongings over to Finland. I think we shipped a total of maybe 36 boxes or something like that. We took 8 suitcases with us on our
Wow.
flight to Finland.
36
lot.
boxes. That's a lot.
That's a lot of stuff. Where
Like
you gonna
the-
move that to?
They moved. Like they're not this.
Mhm.
They didn't like move temporarily for a couple of years. They like moved.
We basically packed up our entire life, and now
Yeah.
we moved to Finland in November of
That's a
2023.
lot of stuff. How much stuff they have? That's a lot of stuff. You don't need that much stuff to go to Finland. I would kind of want to start from scratch.
Yeah, I would honestly, I would bring a set. Like if you talk shipping, what maybe 5-6 boxes tops. Like
Of what?
I don't clothes.
I think clothes would take the most.
Yeah, the clothes. that's it.
Clothes,
The-
and then maybe the cooking utensils.
not like
then-
like what KitchenAid, like the
Yeah.
the more important stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's a
So
lot
we've
of
been
stuff.
here for just over a year.
You know what? They have kids, probably a lot of kids stuff. Cause kids, they get attached to their stuff. They can't just abandon it.
I mean, it's still clothes and toys.
yeah, but a lot of toys probably.
Mm.
I would think so.
Because they're
Luckily,
young, so how much had they already
I don't
accumulated at
know.
that point?
my husband's job can really take him anywhere. He used to work from home, so now he still works from home. Because we had visited Finland every year ever since we got married, I pretty much knew what to expect. And after a year of living here, I am just really grateful for the opportunity to be in Finland, and I'm
Aw.
very thankful for my husband's family for taking me in. So my parents divorced when I was young, and I moved to the U.S. with my mom, and my dad stayed behind in China. They divorced a few
Oh,
years
why does she
after we
feel
arrived in
like,
the
oh,
States.
they taking her in? They married. She's
Know.
like, I'm thankful they're taking me in.
Well, maybe they live with the parents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they have kids together and they're married.
Yeah, but it's still like taking them in because they live, with the parents. So if they end up buying their own house in Finland, she probably feel like, okay, now I belong. But because she's kind of like a guest at the parents' house, so that's why she probably feels like.
I'm lying. I would feel the same way too.
And my dad eventually started a new family. I now have a half brother, which I've never met, and he's, I don't know, like 30 years younger than me. So he has his own family in China. I don't really keep in contact with him that much, except for a few phone calls here and there. And my mom sadly passed away from cancer about 12 years ago, so I really
Wow.
don't have any parents, even though I technically have a dad. I'm like an expat of an expat because I left China for the US,
Wow.
and then I left US for Finland. My husband had already started speaking to my son in only Finnish while we were still living in New York, so his Finnish is like pretty good, like pretty fluent. It might not be
I guess
as
when she
good as
mean
some
accepting her, I mean like treating her like family.
Yeah, probably.
native
Mhm.
speakers because he also speaks English, but he can get by fine. And I've recently started taking Finnish lessons. Even though most people here do speak English, especially in the larger cities, you integrate better when you learn the language. So I'm slowly learning Finnish. It's very difficult, and I might make a video about that soon. But yeah, now we are in Finland, the land of a thousand lakes. So I hope that
Aw,
answers some
I'm
of your
rooting
questions,
for
and I'm
them. I
happy.
hope they adjust well in Europe.
Interesting video. Not exactly what I was expecting. I thought it would talk more about life in Finland. This is basically her life
Mhm.
story, but
I wonder how long they plan to stay in Finland.
yeah, but the life story is very
Very
relatable.
interesting,
Yeah,
yeah.
very interesting. How long? I don't know. If she didn't say if they have a house or they, because of the whole comment taking me in, I'm assuming she's living with the parents. So if they're living with the
Mhm.
parents, maybe this is not a permanent move.
Mm.
However, if you ship 36 boxes,
That's a lot.
that's a
I'm
lot.
gonna stay there for a
Because
long
yeah, to
time.
me, like you just put that shit in storage, pay like $200 a month, and that's it.
Mm.
Like you ship, like if it's like a temporary move, you don't ship the whole life basically. So
Mm. You
uh,
know me, I'm not too attached to stuff. I feel like I would just take what I need and go.
yeah, me too. I don't feel like I would take a lot of stuff, but
Mm.
take this and what interesting. Yeah, very interesting
We
story.
see you in the same kind of shirts.
Yes, I maybe like I have like 15 shirts. Yeah, you guys, if you watch this channel, it's the different day, different shirt, but yeah, same shirts.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, 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 share as much kindness as possible.